Well, hello and welcome to another edition of Health Solutions with Shawn and Janet Needham, where Team Needham discusses everything healthcare. I'm your host, Shawn Needham, along with my wonderful wife, Janet, and we are streaming live from Winter Haven, Florida. And for all you people in our home of Washington State, where it's a -5 or something degrees, I feel for you. Kind of, but we're glad we left. Yeah, it was 70 degrees today and partially sunny. The sun did peek out. We were on the lake water skiing today, barefoot water skiing. I picked that up a couple years ago as a bucket list for my 50th birthday. And I really kind of fell in love with the sport. So I try to come to Florida a couple times a year to experience it. And of course, I experience it locally in Washington State too. And had a fun day on the water, learned some new stuff, always progressing. Have the best coach in the world, Lane Bowers. We're headed out to dinner with him and his wife tonight. Just a wonderful friend and a great barefoot water skiing coach. If anybody is looking to learn barefoot water skiing, he's your guy. He has taught people that have never barefooted before in their 70s, and he teaches them to barefoot. So he is really an excellent teacher, knows people's abilities, won't set you over your ability. He has a no-fall barefoot policy. So, and Janet's learned to barefoot with him, and she can attest to that. So anyway, this will be our last episode before Christmas. So first of all, we'd like to wish you a Merry Christmas. And then we would also like to talk about the meaning of Christmas and what it means to you. So anybody that's listening or watching, and even if you don't watch live, put in the comments and tell us what the meaning of Christmas is for you. And we're going to talk about some healthy holiday tips. So first of all, Janet, why don't you tell us about what you do during the holidays to make sure you don't overindulge and make sure you have an activity program on file. Notice I didn't say exercise. Tune in Monday because Janet and I will be on the podcast and we will be discussing exercise as a 4-letter word. We should really rethink what we call exercise and how we name it, and it will give us a different mindset. So Janet, what's some healthy holiday tips that you can give to our listeners and viewers?
Well, first of all, most of us think that we have to give, and I am not someone that would put anybody down for giving, but let's put that into a financial budget if you haven't already. People are going to like you more if you're happier, if you haven't overspent and maxed out your credit card. So I try, and everybody's different, but I tried to give very practical things rather than really over spend on gifts, because I feel like our Christmas, at least for our family, is the time that we spend together as a unit. Spending that gives me joy more than the gifts. And so that leads us into other things that we do for traditions in our culture. And the one thing that I've eliminated for me to help me on my health journey is I love cookies. So I do not bake them. I do not bring them into my house. I leave them at the store. I regift. All that, because I know that that's a problem for me. So I've identified something that I struggle with. And so if it's not there, it doesn't hurt me. And it has been very successful for me. We still have a dessert, but after our meal, it's gone, it's over, it's out of the house. We have 2 teenager young.
They're not
teenagers anymore, but we resend it. We get rid of it.
We tell them to take it home. Take it home with you.
Right.
We don't want it.
So my basic thing is we just make our holiday a little more simple, and the food list is more straightforward. We don't bring in a lot of the extra sugary stuff and processed things, and that's helped me on my journey. Not being stressed out about over budgeting, not being stressed out about overcooking, and just making it more relaxing for all of us, because if mom is happier at the home during the holiday and the kids and the husband don't have to put up with us being upset because we're overstressed for all the things that we do during the season, I think that is a better enjoyable moment for all the family. So that's for me.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up about the financial aspect, because financial health is very important to our overall general health. If you are struggling financially because of overspending usually, and finances are usually a spending problem, they're not usually an earning problem. There are exceptions to that, but you can learn to live within any budget. And it can cause a lot of stress. And I will tell you, Jan and I at Moses Lake Professional Pharmacy, we mostly take care of hormone patients. And it is not uncommon. In fact, I was just answering a text today from someone who was having some symptoms of hormone dosing issues during the holidays. Many times this happens, and it can be precipitated with stress. So if we stress during the holidays, our cortisol goes up, and and you're not sleeping, and you're not eating as good as you should. That can mess your hormones up. So it is important to have a healthy financial relationship around Christmas too, or it can cause undue stress. So make sure you're not stressing out about Christmas. It's, like Janet says, it's a time that we should enjoy. It's a time that we should enjoy with our families. It's a time we should celebrate the birth of Christ. And that's really, Christ is in Christmas. And that's really what we're celebrating, is the birth of our Savior. So I would really love any comments from anybody that's listening or watching, even later on, if you want to put something in the comments. So if you're not watching live, we would appreciate it. And we try to answer all comments.
So if you're wondering why we are in Winter Haven besides barefoot water skiing, we have a special member of our friend group that's like family to us that is actually getting married. And so typically we do not travel during the holiday season, just partly because I like to be at home with my kiddos and my husband, but we're making an exception. But we are going to be home for Christmas Day.
That's right. We are flying home Christmas Eve, and we'll be home Christmas Day with our family. And the person that's getting married is Dr. Jared Wallen. He has been on our podcast multiple times. He's an outstanding friend and an outstanding doctor, urologist, and he's talked on our podcast a few times. So he lives down here in Florida. Go ahead.
And he's marrying a beautiful lady.
Yes, he is. Yes,
by
he is.
the name of Raquel.
That's right. I'm super excited for him. Yes. We're going to go to their wedding tomorrow. And our trip here was very interesting. So yesterday, we get up Wednesday. The days are kind of going together for me. So it's kind of hard to think what day is which. But yesterday we get up and our flight was canceled. We were flying to Alaska from Spokane to Seattle. And Seattle had nasty weather. As you guys know that live in Washington, and Seattle can't handle nasty weather. So a lot of the flights were canceled. Our flight was canceled. They rebooked us to today. So our option was fly out today and maybe get here. I would have missed barefoot water skiing, but I wouldn't have missed the wedding, which is tomorrow. But then
we might have. You
don't know.
Yeah.
So Jen and I kind of have a motto: anytime you have an option during traveling, do what you can to get closer to wherever your destination. So we booked 2 flights. We had to fly on separate airplanes yesterday, and airlines actually. And it took Janet, about 12 hours of travel. And it took me, 18 or so. I didn't get in until 6:15 this morning. So I have not slept in, over 24 hours now. Not very good. I slept on and off on the plane, but not very well. So, but I didn't want to miss my barefoot water skiing adventure, because I always love learning from Lane and catching up with Lane. So we got here, and it's been a long day, so well worth it. We do have a comment here from Frank. I'd be interested in your opinion on the off-label of the new diabetic RX for weight loss. So, Frank, I think you're talking about semaglutide. It's been very popular for weight loss, and it's been very effective for weight loss. I'm not a big believer in drugs for type 2 diabetes. Talked about that many times. Type 2 diabetes is a diet problem. But if you go back into our podcast from a few weeks ago. Not sure what episode it was, but Rhonda Bonilla, RHONDA, she and Bonilla, BONILLA, podcast from a few weeks ago. She talked about the benefits of using semaglutide for weight loss. She's had wonderful, wonderful results with it in her program that she monitors. So go watch that podcast. You'll learn a lot about that, Frank. I'm not against it. One thing that she does talk about is that, anybody in the studies, even people that don't really change their habits will lose some weight, maybe up to 10 pounds. But here's the reality. Most Americans need to lose way more than 10 pounds. And she's honest about it too, is that you'll do a lot better if you change your diet and lifestyle.
I agree.
So, and let me pull up, go ahead and Janet, and you talk about that, and I'll pull up Rhonda's site.
Well, I agree at this point that you have to change what got you into this position. So I'll speak to myself. I identified in my own diet things that can trip me up, that can lead to maybe more calories in a day than I should consume. And one of the things that I've learned to do is we kind of pre-plan a little bit. It's not too crazy, but we are prepared for coming home from work and not being exhausted and just, overindulging in something that's not very healthy for us. So planning is part of it, eliminating things that cause problems, and really being honest with yourself. What is it? Is it you're drinking too much sugary sodas? Is it too much alcohol consumption on the weekend or weekdays? Is it, high calorie sugary foods? Find out what it is and then make a goal and attack that, because yes, there are tools out there that are very helpful and help people move that gauge, and I'm all for that, but we have to still address the problem of why you are in that position and how we're going to resolve it. Using a tool I'm fine with, but we still need to identify and attack it. And I think if we don't, I don't think the results, like Rhonda said in the podcast, are going to be as good. And from my perspective as a healthcare provider or professional, we see way too often, too many clients, they lose and then they rebound. They lose and then they rebound. And the rebound issue is because of not dealing with what it is that they're doing on a daily basis, whether it's over calculating or under calculating or whatever we're doing with our calories.
Yeah. And here's Frank, here is a picture of some before and afters with Rhonda using semaglutide in the program. Now, on the left-hand side is Lindsay. She's a nurse and owner of the clinic. And on the right-hand side is actually Rhonda's husband. Rhonda is a nurse practitioner. And obviously, these people have dramatic results. Now, they didn't do this just by taking semaglutide. Obviously, they changed their lifestyle. And it's definitely possible. This is a result you can get when you do change your lifestyle. Obviously, add some strength training in. Obviously, diet is so important. And Rhonda can go through all that with you. So if you want more information, go to our podcast where Rhonda was on that show. And thank you for the question, Frank. Let's see. Where else were we at? Healthy tips. What about movement during the holidays, Janet?
So since we were set up with some bad traveling, we decided that when we were at the airport, if we could, we would walk and move and stretch. So it wasn't like we, ran a marathon or did a big bike ride, but we moved. And that helps too, because if you're sitting there cramped, not moving isn't very healthy for you. It doesn't clear your brain. Your brain is already struggling. You have anxiety because you've been rerouted so many times and making the decision of what should we do, and it's stressful, and so many people around you are doing the same. So rather than going to the bar and drinking or going and eating something that we didn't need, that wasn't healthy for us, we moved. And that is as simple as, just, refocusing. And gathering your thoughts and moving. And sometimes there's not a lot of time to do that, but we did what we could. And then, of course, when we got here, we did enjoy some wonderful water on Florida's lakes and being outside. And I think one of the things that I love about being outside and being outdoors is that just that short period of time that you're outside relaxes you. And that is something our doctor friend Amy Beard talks about too with her clients, is that being outdoors makes you feel like moving and going. And before long, we're like, wow, we've been here for a while, and it was really calming. And both Shawn and I feel relaxed, and the journey is behind us, and so it was a very good experience. So if you can get outside, I know in Washington State that might be a little tricky right now, but there are some things you can do. So outside, moving, short movements, maybe even just going to the mailbox right now might be okay in Washington State.
And think about when you travel on an airplane, especially, or driving a lot. I mean, you got plenty of time of sitting.
Right.
So the more you can walk, the better. I mean, it's good for your hip flexors. One of the worst things for your hip flexors is sitting all the time.
Yeah.
And you need to just stretch those out, and walking is just a good way to do that.
Yeah. I mean, you still can physically stretch if you need to. I know sometimes Shawn does, but we look at walking as not being that great, but there's so many times where even coaches have said to Shawn that walking is very healthy because of that stretching, and there is something very relaxing about it. So don't forget that. And even if adults need adult time out, I put myself in one the other day at work because I was overwhelmed. Sometimes we just need to go stretch our legs, and just even if it's around the block, there's something different that happens in our brain that helps us be able to handle whatever we're facing, whether it's just you're tired, overwhelmed, stressed, any of that. So take advantage of that short break of walking.
And speaking of movement, on our podcast Monday, our regularly scheduled podcast, 12:30 to 1:30, we are going to be discussing exercise. And we will actually be sharing some programs that you can do post-holidays or anytime, some home workouts, and other ideas that you can do with simple body weight stuff or simple weights, simple equipment that you don't need a lot of a big fancy gym or a lot of equipment. Now, we will be talking about gym and the importance of gyms for some people and the importance of community for working out. And we'll be talking about, personalized coaching also, or personalized training, because for some people, they need that as an accountability. I have a personal coach for my mountain bike racing, and he keeps me accountable. And he teaches me when I need to not work out. And that's what's really important. Is we're talking to Lane Bowers about that today, about how important recovery is, especially as we get older. You can actually work out too much. Absolutely. We get stronger when we rest, not when we work out. So recovery is super, super important. So what do you have as we finish this podcast up, Janet?
Well, I just want to say Merry Christmas to everybody, and we feel very blessed that we made it on our trip, and I hope your travels are as well. But I hope you take this time to be with your families and reflect about the true meaning that Christ came into this world to give us light and hope. And I hope we enjoy that, because I feel like all the gift and all the stuff and the money stuff is really not that important. Enjoy your family, enjoy each other's, enjoy your friends, and make this season a blessed one.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. As always, thank you for listening and viewing. We really appreciate you guys as we start winding up this year. We really couldn't do it without you. Our podcast is ever growing and ever reaching all over the world now. I have people message me from all over the world, and it's just it's very rewarding to me. I really enjoy doing this. It's really helped us to reach our goal at our pharmacy, which is for 25 years now, which is to educate and empower individuals to take charge of their own health. And now we do that through this podcast, and I actually wrote a book about it too. So as always, we thank you for listening and viewing. Tune in Monday, Don't miss out. Our regularly scheduled podcast, 12:30 to 1:30 Pacific Standard Time. We will be discussing exercise is a 4-letter word. So stay tuned why that is. Thank you for listening and viewing. Thank you.